Okay, so here we are in week 5 for 8th grade math. For this week, we're going to be doing identifying functions and data and domain and range. And this is TEAC 8.5G. So remember, we're going to be identifying a function from a set of ordered pairs, a table, mapping, and graphs. Okay. Now, of course, we have gone over this. This is a review, and we tend to do okay on these, but we do still need to refresh our memories and make sure that we completely understand functions. So now, at the base core function, which I'm going to use as f of x, okay, a function um, is a relation in which no x can be used more than once. So in a function, okay, remember that the x cannot it cannot repeat. You cannot use it more than once on the x value. Cannot repeat. Now, my y can. So my y can repeat. It doesn't matter how many times. You could use the same y every time, and that's okay. The y can repeat. So now that's about the main part of it that we need to remember. Now, there are some vocabulary words that we need to be reminded of. So in our function, okay, f of x, in our function, we have a x value and we have a y value. Now remember that in our x, there are two other vocabulary words that you will need to know because they will use them in the test. So besides x, they may refer to the x value as the input and the y value is the output. So those are two words that we need to familiar ourselves with for x and y. And then there's also one more. The next one is another word for the x value or input is independent variable. So independent. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I don't want to write the whole thing. And for my y, it's my dependent. So I'm gonna just write DEP for dependent. So remember that a function is a relation where the x cannot repeat. The y can repeat. Doesn't matter how many times you reuse the y. You have an x and a y value. Your x value is also known as your input and as your independent variable. I like to remember these or help me remember these by looking at the first part, the in part. Okay, so they both start with IN. So independent input, we're just talking about X. On my Y, it's my output and my dependent variable. Okay, so those are some of the ways that you may see it the way it's being asked. So now there are 4 different representations for a function. We have a ordered pair. Okay, we have our table of values. We have our mapping, which we have the 2 circles with arrows, and then we have our graph. So in this, we need to always identify first our x and our y's. So if I look at this one, if I'm looking at an ordered pair, the first number in an ordered pair is always my x. So this is my x. So I'm going to look at 2, 3, and 12. And then I'm going to ask myself, do these repeat? 2, 3, and 12. Right, they don't. If they don't repeat, then guess what? This is a function. So as long as we look at, if we're looking at ordered pair, as long as we see that the first number, the x value, does not repeat in any of the ordered pairs, it is a function. Now, we have a table of values, just as simple as being able to identify from an ordered pair. So I'm going to look at my x's. So all my x's are on the top in this case. So I have 0, 2, and 4. Do any of them repeat? Right. So then, is it a function? Yes, it is a function. On the mapping, we have our inputs or our domain and our outputs, which is also known as my range. But we know that the ins, okay, is also my x's. So this is where I'm going to look. And when I'm looking at a mapping, I'm going to just look to make sure that no arrow is coming out of the same x more than once. So if I look at this one, it's 2. Well, I only have one arrow from 2 and it goes to 6. That means that is 2, comma 6. That's how we read these. If I look at 5, it has one arrow that goes to 15. So the way this is 5, 15. If I look at 10, it has one arrow, goes to 30. So this is 10, 30. And again, so because none of them have more than one arrow coming out of the same one, and if I write them out in ordered pairs and I look at 2, 5, and 10, none of them repeat, then this is a function. Good. I'm pretty sure you're starting to understand or get this. Now, the one that is the most difficult when it comes to functions that we tend to make errors on is the graph. Okay? As simple as it may seem visually, what we tend to forget is that what is called let me go and write it, our vertical line test. So if you recall that, our vertical line is basically exactly what it is. It's a vertical line up and down, and it's a test because if I draw a vertical line at any point on this graph, it should not cross any point more than one time. So in this example right here, okay, I have this squiggly line. If I draw this vertical line right here, where does it touch this line? It touches it right here. Does it touch it more than one time? No, it doesn't. So if it does not pass more than one time at any particular vertical line, then it is a function. And as simple as that may seem, this is where we tend to make a lot of mistakes because we're going to see different kinds of graphs. Okay. And sometimes so I see that we put a vertical line somewhere where it didn't pass more than once. But if you look further into it, there is a point where if you did the vertical line there, it would pass more than once. So, and I think that's kind of where we make our mistakes. But just remember that if we're talking about functions and if we're talking about a graph or you see a graph, you need to do this vertical line test. Okay. And you look at it visually. Wherever you decide to draw that line, it's okay. but then look down the rest of the graph and make sure that you don't see a spot where it could be passing more than once. Okay, so, and that's what we're working on this week. Of course, right here, there's some further info of what I just, reiterating what I had just discussed at the top. We have domain, x value, independent, also as known as input, range, y value, dependent, and also as the output. Okay, so you may see the input, output, you may see the domain range, or you may see the independent, dependent. Just remember that those are just vocabulary words for your x value and your y value. You need to be able to identify which one is which. So if just do one quick example here, if I looked at it from ordered pair, again, remember, I'm going to look at the first number in each ordered pair because that is my x value. And notice I have two zeros here. So because the zeros repeat, this is it's not a function. And you can write that or identify that as an F. If I look at the next one, I look at 2, 1, 3, 5. Right, they don't repeat. So this is a function. Or you can write in here, they don't repeat. But that's basically the idea that I want you to understand. And like I said, we tend to do pretty good on the ordered pairs and the table and the mapping. This right here is where we tend to make some errors. So I just want to go over these three to finish off this video. So remember, if I have a graph, I'm doing that vertical line test. Just write a VLT for short. So I'm going to draw a line here. Not the straightest line, but did it cross it more than one time? It crossed it right here. Did it cross it again? No. Even if I did it right here, some people may think or it may look like, but if you really, really went down, it really is never in the same spot the whole way. So this wouldn't pass more than once. So this would be considered a function because it passed the vertical line test. It didn't pass more than one time. What about here? Just one time. So it is a function. Now, what about a circle? Well, if I did it here, notice that it crosses right here, but it crosses again right here. So in this case, is this a function or not? Right, it is not a function. So, and this may just be some practice. Some of y'all may catch it right away, and y'all are good because y'all notice those things. And if not, it's okay. It's just practice. So we need to make sure that we understand this. But just remember that this is just an overview. Okay. Remember to continue to watch your teachers' other videos that they're posting because those are a lot more in detail and are broken down a lot more. But hope that you've refreshed your memory and that you are recalling everything about functions. Okay. And again, remember, you can always go back to that first page. You have your examples, you have your explanations, you have your vocabulary words. Okay. So if you don't remember what domain was or input and you see it later down the line, go back. Okay. Refer to that first page. Okay. Continue to keep up the good work, guys, and stay safe.